Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video, and this is a reaction to something that's been all over Twitter and the internet recently. People have been getting very angered by it, and he triggered the entire NBA with one sentence, but it's to do with, I can't remember that, is it that Noah Lyles? I don't know, I think that's his name. I didn't actually know who he was before, but I've sort of looked into it and I've heard that is he a sprinter? And he's like rapid to the point of like, I think he's like gonna be competing at the Olympics in the future, or he already has. I don't know, but he's rapid and he's obviously top of his craft. I don't really know how it led to him talking about the NBA, but his argument was pretty much how could you be world champions if you win like a domestic competition, which I feel like I kind of agree with, because I mean I saw Stephen A. Smith react as well. And it was like, we've got all these international players. How can't they be seen as world champions? Because there's people from all around the world playing, which I think that's a terrible point. Because the NBA is so obviously the best league in the world, right? It's without a question. Like in terms of basketball, and I guess you can say with American football or baseball. I mean, I don't know how good the Japanese baseball league is, but like all the sports, like the major sports in the US, I mean, I'm pretty sure they are all the best leagues in the world at those sports. Basketball, there are leagues around the world, and the NBA just clears them. But other leagues, I mean, there's not really American sport leagues around the world, I don't think. But, I mean, the argument of having international players meaning, it can be seen as world champions, I just don't really get it. But, like, for example, you've got, like, Gaelic football. Because I was looking at arguments for it, and I think this is the best one. Like you've got in like Ireland, you've got I think Gaelic football, or there's a sport in Ireland that's the most popular there. They've got leagues for it. I think it's the biggest sport there actually. And when they win, they don't call themselves the world champions. They just win the league or whatever. So that argument I think is the best because it's a comparison. Again, I don't think there's even one person in the world who would say the NBA team, the worst NBA team, would probably beat the best team outside. Maybe not. That's probably a stretch. I was going to say the worst NBA team would probably be the best team outside of the US, outside of North America, because obviously you got the Raptors as well. I think the best team. There's some teams in Turkey. There's some teams in Spain. I think the Real Madrid basketball team is probably the best. I don't know, to be fair, but would they be? I mean, who's the worst NBA team last year? I don't know. I always see like the Washington Wizards as one of the worst teams, so I'm just going to say them. Would they beat them? I'm not sure. I don't actually know the level of comparison. I'm probably going to say on a 7-game series, the Wizards probably would win, but I don't know. But we're going to see. I know a lot of people get pissed off by this, and I don't think it's anyone trying to sort of say the NBA isn't a good league, because that's just not the case. I just think it's the idea of winning a domestic competition and then being seen as world champions. Because again, if there was a competition for that, so you then compete against the best team in Europe or the best team in Asia or whatever, obviously you're going to win, but it's just to do it from a domestic sort of winning standpoint, I don't see it. Again, I'm not actually that bothered by it. I'm doing a long intro for this, but I'm not that fussed by it. I just thought it was so fascinating because one side of people are getting so angry at the fact that people are saying it shouldn't be, and then the other side are getting so angry that it's like, oh, how can you call it that? It's just a cesspool of absolute just anger towards each other. But we're going to check this out and see. Hopefully going to enjoy. Links are also in the description to my Patreon if you care for that. And yeah, let's just jump into this.
In the NBA, I don't think there's a single topic where everyone is in agreement. In all my days, all the debates, takes, forums, media, I have never seen everyone come together and agree on anything. Until
Oh, there we go. I was just going to say, that's just sport, man. You ain't going to agree with anything. But I think in terms of fan bases, basketball or NBA fans are probably the most similar to football/soccer fans, for sure. It's so toxic. Maybe the NFL is the same as well, but it gets so toxic. And I feel like NBA Twitter and football Twitter or soccer Twitter, it's so similar, but for different sports. Toxic. You get angry at anything. And yeah.
a few days ago. All thanks to this man. In a collective act unlike anything we've
Wait, so where's this come from then? So where are these comments? Are these applying to... Was there a post about it from him? Bro, you got all the big boys. You got Booker, Lillard, Aaron Gordon. Oh my God. Bam. Fucking hell.
like anything we've ever seen. NBA
Somebody help this. You got KD's view, bro. The whole NBA community is fuming.
players have joined forces all to tell this guy he's wrong. The worst part, he might be right.
I have to watch the NBA Finals, and they have world champion on their head. World champion of what?
Of what? The way he says it. Why was he talking about basketball? I don't get it. He's a sprinter.
Really excited to announce the sponsor of today.
He's getting his money. Let's go, Jimmy. Secure on the bag. Let's just get it to the... Wait, the code? Get 10% off BetterHelp. It's like... Isn't like... What's it called? Counseling and stuff? Well, if you're interested, this is the thing you search and you get a 10% discount.
10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Jimmy High Roller. That's BETTERHELP.com/Jimmy High Roller. Not very often do the worlds of track and field and basketball converge. I would know. They're my two favorite sports, and they virtually exist in two different planes of reality. But a few days ago, the two sports collided, all thanks to one little interview that got blown completely out of proportion. So what better opportunity for me to blow it even more out of proportion?
Bro, this response from Stephen A, I thought it was the worst response. If you're going to make an argument, he could have made a much better argument than what Stephen A made. I don't know if he's going to touch upon it, but I just didn't really get his argument. It was kind of confusing because any sport in the world, you're going to have the best, any league in the world, any best league in the world, you're going to have people from all around the world playing in that league. But that's not what makes it a world champ, like that gives it world champion status, if that makes sense.
You see this guy right here? This is Noah Lyles. He's the fastest man in the world. And
He's the fastest man in the world now.
Past week, he pulled off the coveted triple gold at the 2023 World Championships, winning the 100, the 200, and the 4x100 relay, a feat that hasn't been pulled off on the world stage since 2016 by an athlete y'all may or may not be familiar with, named Usain Bolt.
Damn.
Yeah, Noah Lyles is really good. And after his historic week on the track, Lyles had some strong words about the idea of being a world champion and how some leagues use the title when they probably shouldn't.
That hurts me the most is that I have to watch the NBA Finals, and they have world champion on their head.
So he just randomly brought it up. I thought maybe he was asked a question about like the NBA or something. Does he just hate the NBA? I'm so confused.
World champion of what? The United States? Don't get me wrong. I love the U.S. at times, but that ain't the world. That is not the world. We are the world. We have almost every country out here fighting, thriving, putting on their flag to show that they are represented. There ain't no flags in the NBA.
Now, this sentiment of a domestic league claiming a world championship despite never facing other countries to win the title has been echoed for years, and it makes sense. In order to be a world champion, you need to beat the rest of the world. In 2010, Greg Popovich, who has been the head coach of the U.S. men's national team since 2019, said it doesn't make sense for an NBA team to call themselves the world champions. I don't remember anybody playing anybody outside of our borders to get that tag. Popovich, along with countless others, agree with Lyles. There's not really much to debate here. Until NBA players saw the interview.
Bro, they're fuming. I'm smoking body in the 200 meters. Bro, they're so angered by it. Were there any... I don't know. Were there any non-American athletes that replied? Athletes and NBA players that replied? Because I've not seen like Giannis or Luka or Jokic. Like, I've not seen any of them reply. And I'm trying to think of other European or just people that aren't. I was just gonna say Kristaps Porzingis or whatever, but I don't even know if he's if he plays still. I think he does. He's not even that old, but
In the most unanimous voice of opinion I've ever seen in my 7 years covering the NBA, players across the league chimed in on the discussion. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Damian Lillard, Draymond Green, Aaron Gordon. The whole damn
Big boys.
NBA pulled up to drop off
The
their
big
2
boys.
cents about Noah Lyles' comments. Have you ever seen anything like this? This man had the whole league descending on him over.
bro, this is meme material, man. Somebody help this, brother. This is gonna be turned into a Twitter meme in no time. The little quotations of like quotes from players for sure.
A few words. Every single one of them in universal agreement that the team that wins the NBA Finals are, in fact, the world champions. And you know what? They're right. The team that wins the NBA Finals in any given season are the world champions. And here's why. See, I love track and field. I ran it in college. It was my best sport. One of my closest friends, CJ Allen, represented the US and ran at the World Championship meet this past week. And so I feel I have a solid perspective on this debate. I understand where Noah is coming from. He didn't just earn the title of world champion by simply being the best in the world. He earned the title by beating the best in the world. The title of world champion doesn't inherently come from being the best in the world. It comes from winning a competition that includes the entire world.
See, I get this, right? I do actually get the point he's going to make because obviously the NBA players are the best. But I'd say the best comparison is like, I mean, I said like the Irish League, the Gaelic football. I can't remember what the sport's even called, but Australian rules football is their own style of football. I don't think they call themselves world champions. Or like the Champions League. If you're into football or / soccer, the Champions League is basically just a congregation of the best European teams, kind of like the NBA. And Europe typically has 95% of the best footballers in the world. But when you win that, so the winners of the Champions League, they're European champions. And I know there's not a competition after the NBA to then compete with like the other teams around the world for like the best in the world. But the title that they give themselves isn't world champions. And then there's actually a competition that they then play other teams around the world to see the best team in the world or the world champion team or whatever. I mean, it's just a title at the end of the day. But domestic competitions being seen, like being called world champions, it's just a bit of a funny one to me.
Or does it? See, in most other sports, like the vast majority of sports, in order to be crowned a world champion, you must win some form of competition or tournament on a world scale. Whether it's the World Championships, the Olympics, the FIFA World Cup, even the Little League World Series. A lot of sports fans believe the route to win a world title means beating the rest of the world, and rightfully so. But when it comes to basketball, specifically the NBA, I would disagree. The NBA, despite the word national literally being in the name, is a league comprised of the best basketball players in the world. It isn't some second-rate league. It isn't a sport that's only played here in the States. It is by far the best basketball league on the planet.
That's
in
true.
fact, out of 537 active NBA players, 128 of them are international players.
I don't get this point. I don't really get this point because any top league is going to have people from around the world. Like the NFL is actually a lot more. I think the NFL's. I think out of the American sports, the NBA definitely is the most the league with the players from all around the world. Maybe the MLB because I know there's a lot of like Puerto Ricans and Cubans and like people from a certain region. But I feel like the NBA definitely is the most diverse league in the American sports. Because I mean the NFL is mainly just Americans, to be fair. Like the NFL is like the true, like in terms of like players, it's like I don't even know any European, or not even European. I don't know any players who are in the NFL who aren't from North America. So the NBA in terms of that definitely is the most diverse league. And again, the argument isn't it's not the best league in the world. It obviously is. I just don't really see how, because there's players from around the world, it gives it the world champion title.
That's 24% of the league. The OKC Thunder have 9 international players from 5 different countries on their roster alone. Unlike a sport like American football, which is almost exclusively played in the US, basketball is a worldwide sport with leagues around the
For
globe.
sure.
The best players from
Basketball is huge in certain parts of Europe, like Turkey, Spain, but also like I guess you got like Lithuania and like Latvia and stuff. It's massive.
every country all ending up in the NBA. Now sure,
Serbia.
the NBA Finals isn't technically the World Championship by definition, but an NBA championship team is naturally the world champions since the league is home to the best talent in the world. Would it be anything more than a formality to send, let's say, the Denver Nuggets to Spain to play the Real Madrid basketball club, parade around the world to prove they are definitively the world champs? No. And yet, that is exactly what some NBA teams do. Since 1984, and held nearly every year since, a handful of NBA teams play exhibition games against international teams. And since 1984, there have been 178 of these NBA team versus international team games. Of those 178 games, NBA teams have won 161 of them, giving
Fucking hell. Wait, who's the most recent 2022? The Adelaide, I cannot see that name. Phoenix Suns against somewhere in Adelaide. The Suns got cooked. God damn. I mean, that's not really surprising. I mean, you obviously expect. Again, I don't think everyone knows that NBA teams are better. That's just obvious. It's just the title for a domestic competition. Maybe it's just being picky with words at the end of the day. Like, it's not a big deal, but and it's not a big deal at all. It's just some people get a bit touchy about it.
NBA teams a win percentage against international teams over the last 4 decades of 90%. In fact, the NBA's record against international teams over the last 42 games is 41-1. Look at this. The Blazers were one of the worst teams in the league last season, won only 33 games. I would know, unfortunately, they're my team. Last October, they faced this team, a team out of the Israeli National Basketball League with a name I won't even try to pronounce. And the Blazers blew them out by 53 points. Here's another game from last.
See, like I said, in the worst team in the NBA, I reckon they would beat the best team out of the NBA in a 7-game series. I said that. I mean, I don't know if that's true. Maybe the worst team's a push, but honestly, I think that could be the case. For sure.
Last season, where a ragtag OKC Thunder lineup played a game against a team from the Australian National Basketball League and beat them by 33 points. Half of these Thunder players don't even see the court in the NBA, and they still blew this team out. In 2019, the Cavaliers, who were the worst team in the entire league, faced off against one of the better teams in South America and smoked them by 31. This Cavs team was the worst team in the entire NBA, and they still ran a premier international team out of the building. Just look at these results from past games. They're almost all like this. NBA teams don't face international teams for world basketball supremacy because they don't need to. The best teams in the world, without exception, are all here in the NBA. If there was a world tournament for every pro basketball team to have a shot at winning a world championship, the last team standing would just be NBA teams. And then we just added a whole bunch of steps to what we already know as the NBA playoffs.
I mean, that's a fair point. Maybe, yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. Because if it was the competition, it would just... I think there's actually 2 arguments. Firstly, it would just end up being like the NBA playoffs. And secondly, there'd be sort of... giving money to the other leagues, which the NBA probably wouldn't want, like filtering money down from the NBA teams. It would inevitably go to like the teams around the world that they're playing, which they probably don't want because they don't want any competition to the NBA because it's their business. They're so far ahead of anything else. They want to keep it that way. And maybe tournaments like this would slowly improve the leagues where maybe some players would actually choose to stay in those leagues or whatever because there's more money and all that. So I do get that.
But you don't even have to look into international competition to see how the NBA is a worldwide league. Last season, 6 of the top 8 NBA...
That is crazy. 6 of the 8? Damn.
MVP candidates were international players. The player who won the award, an international player, as was the MVP in 2022 and 2021 and 2020 and 2019. And in terms of odds, the player who is favored to win the MVP this upcoming season is an international player. So is the player in 2nd and 3rd and 4th. The first overall pick in this year's NBA draft is from France. And this is really nothing new. 10 years ago, the San Antonio Spurs roster consisted of...
Oh, this was the dream team, man. Manu Ginobili got Tim Duncan. Ah, mate.
10 international players, which was
Was Tim Duncan it? Yeah, he was.
more than the number of US-born players on
Wait, where was Tim Duncan born? What's this flag here?
their roster. Now, we do not have a world championship tournament or competition for individual teams, and I don't think we will anytime soon. But we do have the next best thing, the Olympics and the FIBA Basketball World Cup. And you don't need to be a fan of basketball to know how these games play out.
Yeah, but this is actually, that is actually for world championship status, isn't it? Because it's a competition of the best sport teams. I feel like this competition actually is for the title of like world champions, or like, because I guess it's the equivalent to like the World Cup in football.
Games play out. In 1992, the USA men's national team began filling their roster with professional players from the NBA as opposed to amateur players like they did in past years. This is what led to the inception of the Dream Team.
Oh, the Dream
And
Team.
since 1992, the US men's basketball team has played in 15 world basketball tournaments. That's both the Olympics and the FIBA Basketball World Cup. Out of those 15 world tournaments, the
What is seen as more that the better trophy to win, the FIBA World Cup or I guess the Olympics, right? What happened in 2019? The fuck happened there?
US won 10 of them and medaled in 13. Their total win-loss record throughout that 32-year span, 111 and 12. 12 losses in 32 years. The average margin of victory for the US men's basketball team in international competition, plus 26 points per game. For perspective, the largest margin of victory throughout the 2023 NBA season was plus 6.5 by the Boston Celtics. The worst team in the NBA last season had a margin of victory of -10. When the US sends out a basketball team for international competition, the gap between them and the rest of the world is larger than the gap between the best NBA team and the worst NBA team. So, does winning the NBA Finals truly make a team the world champions? Well, technically, no. They don't face any international teams. They don't.
See, I guess that's it. It's just over technicalities at this point, because they obviously are the best in the world. And it's just the technicality of, well, they've not played the best. They're not playing the best. They've not played international teams. So that's what, I guess that is just the technicality about it, even though they are playing the best teams in the world.
Win a world competition, so by definition, they are not world champions. But I mean, come on. This argument is sheer technicalities and semantics. You point me to the team outside of the US that can beat the Denver Nuggets or the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics, or the LA Lakers, and I'll point you to a world champion. Being the best in the world doesn't simply make you the world champion, and beating the best in the world surely does. But what if the best in the world are all playing in the same league, and you and your team are the winners of that league? Well, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, that makes you the world champions.
Fair enough. I wonder what... My voice keeps going, man. I wonder what the comments are saying. We just couldn't ignore Aaron Gordon say he'll smoke Lyles in 200 meters. Bro, I love that comment. God damn, my man Jimmy is going to make it into his own hot takes video. As a fan of No Lyles, I'm just glad he's getting more well known because of this. Yeah, I mean, he's getting people know. Like, I never knew who he was before. So there we go. 100% agree. Calling the NBA champs world champs is just embarrassing. You win titles, you don't assume them. I mean, yeah. Again, I've said this like 10 times. I want to get this clear. We know that the NBA teams are the best. Again, like I said, the Champions League teams are the best teams. Like, a good 10 of them, a good 10 to 20. 20 teams in the Champions League every year will be the 20 best teams in the world. Maybe minus 1 or 2. But when you win that competition, it's not even a conversation for the world champions. It's just the most prestigious club competition. Like the NBA is the most prestigious basketball competition. Like, it's the one that everyone who's into basketball wants to be in the NBA. I'm from Europe, and I don't know the name of any other European basketball league. And I know, again, in certain parts of Europe, like, basketball is huge. It's absolutely massive. The funniest part was Greg Pop agreed with No Lyles after the fact. Players aren't about a challenge. about to challenge him like he has no idea what he's talking about. Well, this video got quite a lot of dislikes, so again, it's touchy. People are probably going to hate my opinion, even though I'm saying NBA teams are the best. They would beat the worst NBA team would probably beat the best European team in a 7-game series. 7-8 times out of 10. Again, maybe more. I don't fully know the actual competition or level of some of the best European teams. I know they're quite good. Like, you get some of the best. I mean, you got the top 3. Did Embiid play in Europe? Because you had Luka Doncic, who was at Madrid, I think. Giannis, who was also at Madrid. I'm sure Jokic was at a European team, like Serbian team before. And now they're the MVP. So you get very good talent out of it. But by the time the talent's still relatively raw, but reaching a decent level, the NBA will snatch them up because it's just got that ability. And those players will want to play in the NBA. But yeah, this is just a little look into this. Let me know your thoughts. I know I mean, maybe not now, but the last week or so, it's been like the number one thing that I've seen on the internet. And people have been getting pretty pressed from it. But let me know your thoughts. Hopefully you enjoyed this reaction and you enjoyed my opinion of the sport that you all love. And you probably you have no right to talk about it, which is fair enough. But yeah, until next time, subscribe. Peace.